fledgling artists then, Hussain and the Bendre.
M.F. Hussain, you mean?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, and we used
He
to
might
buy-
not have been a big artist.
Yeah, we used to buy the paintings and he would just give us the paintings, and we would, in fact, he would not even, he says, if you print it on a greeting card, that's all I want, And then we had these paintings, we didn't know what to do with them. So we had to run the race with a bag full of stones on our back.
Yeah.
And we had to compete with them. And at that time we were struggling, and I could see my father struggling at that time. And it was an emotional decision. I went once to my father and says, I can't work with these people. My my purchase guy and my accounts and all of that, they are not listening to me. And I said, we need to change the team. He says, you don't have a choice. Then, you either work with them or you get out, because, they are not going anywhere, And they would all say that, your competitors are saying that Vakils why should we give you the job? Because everyone says Vakils will not exist. And I had to fight all that, before we, I remember my guys used to start praying to the modem. And then, they would do this to the modem, and then, some of them would break a nariyal and, chalo abhi, let's,
Find ways there.
Yeah.
Today, we have the story of Vakils. They are one of the oldest printing presses in India with a legacy of close to 100 years. They started off as a wedding cards brand by the name Vakils. They had a roaring 50s, 60s and 70s. Come 80s, they had some challenging times. That is when our guest today, Bimal, joined the business. In his own words, he had a lot of challenges while starting his career. One day, he went and met his dad and asked him, could he change some of his staff as they were not supporting him in his work. His father said the staff will remain. If he wants to leave, he could. Those were the conditions under which Bimal started his business. But he stuck and transformed the business from a wedding cards brand to a IT services provider that it is today. It's a phenomenal journey and a phenomenal story. I'm sure each one of us can learn something from this story. If you're all set, let us go ahead and watch the episode.
Hi Bimal, welcome to Ink Stories.
Thank you for having me.
Bimal, I've been in Bombay for like almost 19-20 years, and I've been hearing of Vakils ever since I've been a part of the print industry in some form while I was working in DuPont. And I've heard about Vakils so much, about your story, about your legacy. Today, while we met earlier, you mentioned that this organization has a history back from 1926. That's phenomenal as a year, and we're talking about almost close to 100 years. So we are here to talk about Bimal, about Vakils, about your legacy, your history, and all that. So are you set? Can we start?
Absolutely, yeah.
Great. So just give us a sense about what is Vakils and where did it start and all that.
So it started with a gentleman called Rustam Vakil, and he was a lawyer, and he realized that there was a lot of printing that used to happen, for the courts and all of it, and also for the financial services, being in Bombay, the stock exchange and all that. It was obviously a very paper-driven business at that time. And he was a very successful lawyer, and he decided that why not set up a printing company which was managed by his children.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we don't know too much about that family because we didn't have a direct connect with them.
Okay.
And then in 1946, they decided to sell it to another family, a Parsi and a bunch of brokers, Parsi gentleman and his partner, a Gujarati family, and they were stockbrokers, and they decided that there could be money made in the printing business, and they had professional people or plant managers running it, but they were really, their mind space was in stockbroking, and rightly so, because that was their primary business.
True.
And they ran it for 3 years, but they almost ran it to the ground. And then they said, this is not a business for us, because printing is a very, very different business. It's not something which you have to be hands-on, you have to, and
it's a little bit technical,
and it's a very service-oriented business. True. It's not a business for everybody.
True.
And at that time, they decided to sell, And my grandfather had come back from, he not came back, we were always in South Africa, but that was the time when India was partitioned, and he felt that we should have a base outside of South Africa in India. Indians, because of the apartheid, were not given an opportunity to study, beyond grade 8th. And he felt that, we cannot have a generation of uneducated people always. And so he wanted my father and my uncles to study further. And so India became a place where they came for their studies. So he says, why not set up some business here so that the next generation some of them can, settle down in India. And someone said, why didn't you look at a printing press? And he says, I'm a shopkeeper in South Africa. I don't know anything about printing. And he says, you know what, I'll come there and see how it's run, and I'll observe it for a month or so. And if I find that it's something which I can, kind of take on, then we'll see. And he was a typical Gujarati businessman, could understand how material management could have taken care of. He realized that they were not cash flow. They were not managing their cash flows well. There was a lot of pilferage. Account keeping was quite dismal. And, he could see that side of it. And then he realized that, I can correct all of this. And the technical side, as long as I can keep that same team, because technically they were doing a great job.
Okay.
It was just management of the company which needed a lot of improvement.
We're talking about 1949.
49.
Okay.
And that's when he made an offer to buy out the other owners.
Okay.
And that's how we came into the business.
That's how you came into the business.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely. So, traditionally you've been like doing printing, and today you're doing so much more. Can you just take us through the journey in terms of from where you started and what are you doing today?
So we were always a commercial printer. And as a commercial printer, we printed a lot of annual reports and brochures and magazines and all of that. Being in Bombay, then, whatever and we were, based in Ballad Estate. That's where our first home was, Vakils house. The building still exists. And we were a traditional letterpress printer. And over a period of time, we, said, let's go and let's try and innovate. And in 1958, there was a gentleman from Volta's who says, I cannot find Christmas cards which I want to send. He was a Swiss gentleman, and he wanted to send Christmas cards to his friends and family across wherever he had to, and he couldn't find greeting cards in India. So we used to print for Volta's then, and he says, Mr. Mehta, and that was my granduncle, Mr. G.U. Mehta, why don't you print some greeting cards? My wife has done some designs. And, I like greeting cards. This is not something which we do. And, we just kind of got into it by accident. And then we kind of took that whole business and, we made it a household name all through from the 60s right up to the 1990s.
Okay.
And we played a large part in promoting Indian art. For fledgling artists, then Hussain and the Bendre.
M.F. Hussain, you mean?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, and
he might not have been a big artist.
Yeah, we used to buy the paintings, and he would just give us the paintings, and he would not even, he says, if you print it on a greeting card, that's all I want, And then we had these paintings, we didn't know what to do with them.
And
so
you had M.F. Hussain.
Yeah, so
almost for free.
Yeah, almost for free. So so we have a lot of these old artists then, and we help them promote their art through our greeting cards.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, and then
these were like greeting cards branded as Vakils like
cards.
Archie's and...
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So Vakils then from being, we were known as a greeting card company, even though greeting cards always constituted less than 20% of our total sales. Oh. But to the person on the street, if you said Vakils, he says, "Oh, the greeting card
Greeting card
people." Yeah. And so we were unique in that sense because we had a name beyond the industry because everyone knew us as greeting.
So you had a consumer brand way back then.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Yeah.
That's
And
nice.
so we did a lot of the, Indian art. We went to museums and took miniature paintings and converted them into greeting cards. In 1966, there was a gentleman called Mickey Patel who was working at Lintas, and he says, "Can I can create a humorous card line for you." So we started frolic cards. We used to call it frolic cards, which were, humorous birthday cards and anniversary cards, with a little bit of humor. And then we started wrapping paper and birthday invitations and decorative letterheads and posters, and we created the whole gamut of cards and social securities, and branded as Vakils.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So,
And so that was there for like almost how many years?
so it, we still print greeting cards and calendars.
Under Vakils?
Yeah, under Vakils till date.
Okay.
Because we feel there are, some people who want to send Diwali cards and Christmas cards
Okay,
in a
sure.
print form rather than through a WhatsApp message.
Okay.
So we still have that part of it and calendars till now.
Okay.
But in the 90s, we realized that, as the internet came about, we started, reducing our, range because we were not being able to sell it, and we didn't have the capabilities to create
The distribution
the
network.
distribution network or the design capabilities. And by then, Archie's and Hallmark had come into India, and we could never compete with them. And that's when we took a decision. It was an emotional, and it was not something which we liked, but we took a decision to kind of downsize that business.
Yeah, I
Because,
can imagine.
We did a lot of wedding cards as well, and a lot of people knew us as a wedding card company. So we've, we did a lot of wedding cards over the years, including some, Mukesh Ambani, Anil Ambani's wedding card was printed by Vakil,
Wow.
the Hindujas, and,
So nice.
Yeah, so it's and, yeah.
And then how did you evolve? Like, so what you're doing today?
So we've, over a period of time, we continued doing annual reports as we move from letterpress to offset, and then we, and so the journey of the print journey is very similar to most printing companies you would find.
Yeah.
They've all had to, and I came back. I never wanted to join the printing industry.
okay.
I actually worked in CRISIL, which is it's a credit
Research.
rating agency. And after that, I went to do my MBA in the US.
Okay.
And I never really thought I would come back. It was my mom was not very keen at all that I joined the business. And we were struggling. By the 80s, Vakils started struggling. We had all the problems that we had because we were an old letterpress and offset printer. We had almost 300 hot metal compositors working for us in the 70s, and which was a strength in our 70s and 60s and 70s, 50s, 60s and 70s, became a liability in the 80s.
Yeah, I can
because
imagine.
technology changed.
Change fast.
And unfortunately, the laws of the land did not allow us to remove those people. India was highly unionized,
Right.
Maharashtra in particular. This was the height of the Datta Samant labor movement
Labor
then.
movement, yeah.
And, we just could not remove those people. There's nothing we could do. And, how much, we trained some people, but there's only
There's only that much that you
you
can
could do. And so we were literally on our knees. We were struggling, as a result of which from 85 onwards, we could not invest, in technology. In 91, when, India got liberalized, we had to compete with Tata Press, who were our age-old competitors, and then the young upstarts of Repro and
Yeah.
Parkinson's printers, the undivided Parkinson's,
Yeah.
Conway, all of these guys who were all nimble, fast, and
More agile.
more agile. And we had to
And
run.
no baggage.
No baggage. Yeah,
I think
exactly.
baggage was the problem.
So we had to run the race with a bag full of stones on our back,
Yeah.
and we had to compete with them. And at that time we were struggling, and I could see my father struggling at that time.
I
And
can
it was an emotional decision. And I said, and I was naive enough to think, I said, I've done an MBA, I've worked in CRISIL, I could come and, big deal, I can come and restructure this company. And then I told my parents, maybe I'll spend a few years restructuring it, and then maybe I'll get out. I was naive. My dad knew this would never happen. In India, you can never solve union problems in 3 years. They didn't teach that to me in business school for sure. How to deal with Indian unions. And I think he was probably secretly happy that I've come in.
No, I can.
And my mom was not very happy, but I came in nevertheless. And my father says, you know what, the printing side, you focus on the other side of the business. And
When you say other side,
means marketing,
Okay.
management.
Okay.
And we had a lot of problems then. We were called the old fat lady of Ballad Estate. That was the term which the industry would...
The printing industry was
Yeah, and
calling it,
it was
okay.
jokingly called the old fat lady. Most people thought that was the downfall of Vakils then. And I came in and, I had to jump in the deep end of the sea pretty quickly. We had people who left us, and, Thomson Press, for instance, had come in and they became highly aggressive, Repro. And suddenly our core business of annual reports was under threat. And I had to then, manage that whole side of it, go and meet customers, tell them, and they would all say that, your competitors are saying that Vakils why should we give you the job, because everyone says Vakils will not exist. And I had to fight all that. We had, so that was the market side of it. Our technology had not upgraded. We had people who had not changed with the changing times. All my colleagues were there for years and some of them have actually seen me, before I was even born. So they never treated me seriously because, this is...
ये तो अपना ही है.
Yeah, तो अपना ही है. I've seen this guy, when he came in as a 2-year-old or 3-year-old,
Sure.
and, they became, they became kings in their own little freedom, and never, passed on information. So I had to deal with a
With
lot
all
of
that, yeah.
that kind of problem, market problems, union problems. We had some shareholder problems, with some old shareholders of ours. So it was a really rocky road
Chaotic.
for me. And but an interesting journey because, I kind of, learned the ropes pretty quickly. I went once to my father and says, I can't work with these people. My, my purchase guy, my accounts and all of that, they are not listening to me. And I said, we need to change the team. He says, you don't have a choice. Then, you either work with them or you get out, because, they are not going anywhere, And so I had to kind of navigate through that whole system. At the same time, I had to also look what next for Vakils, so that so the first few years were
Tell us more about that. I think that's the most interesting part, which is people would be like, how did you transform?
So I had to just, there was, I had to make my way through it, like for instance, my father once called the paper guy who was managing paper and says, why don't you teach Bimal how to buy paper? And he managed that as if it's his own little kingdom. And my father had so many things. He's saying he was doing a decent job. At least the paper was coming in and all of it. And, as long as he was doing it, I have other fires to fight. So I'm not really interfering. And that's how, and rightly so, because he was he was kind of alone in that whole thing at that time in
True.
the early 90s. And so he didn't want me to interfere. And so I would go to him and, he would give me the purchase order and say, please sign the purchase order. I said, okay, but before that, who have you bought paper from? Have you got competing quotes? Why not? Why this supplier? Why not another one? And he would tell me in Gujarati, this paper has already been bought. It's been consumed. The accounts department needs a purchase order, and that's where, please sign it. And he would go and tell my father, Bimal, I signed the purchase order. So he would not pass on that any information. And, I had to make my way through. I would then
It'd be so tough, no?
Yeah, it was tough. But, I said, he knows a lot. Let me pick up the good things from him and then make my way around him and try and win the confidence through, my own
I think that's
intentions.
the challenge of a family business.
Yeah. When it's going to take, I'm running a marathon, not a race, a 100-meter race.
True.
And, slowly but surely started winning their confidence to, my whole intention was I needed to gain the knowledge. And I could only gain it by winning their confidence. And then, slowly, obviously, they started let go. So it's been, yeah. And
So how did you transform? Like, you're doing less of printing today
Yeah.
and more like we were researching about Vakils,
Yeah.
and everything was about IT and IT-enabled services. So you are...
So over a period of time, I realized that commercial printing, way back in 1995, I realized that, commercial printing needs to be more value added. Just selling ink on paper and not having any value addition. And I don't mean by having, having digital print and having UV or having some embellishments on this thing. That is value addition, no doubt about it. But real business value addition.
True.
And I said we need to evolve. While I had all this labor trouble and all these other internal troubles, which I spoke about earlier, I said we still need to think beyond those things. Those hopefully should get solved over a period of time.
As and when it happens.
Yeah, because we started doing VRSs. We did our first VRS in 95, then we did another one in first one in 94, then 96. We did one in 2005 and we did another closure. So we did a lot of labor restructuring in that. And I knew that as we move forward in that, what next? We couldn't really make big investments until we solved our labor problems because, but I started looking at other areas. I started in 94. I said, why not do plastic cards, these credit cards and things like that.
Okay.
I went to America to see a credit card, a firm which did that, not a large one, but someone who was interested to come to India. But we realized that we were ahead of our times then. And we didn't want to make those investments when we had the unions at our back of, at our
Sitting on the back.
Yeah. So, that didn't go through too much because the investment was large. I also was looking at that time, that was a time when Harshad Mehta's
Scam 93.
here. So we said, this is a time when share certificates need to come in, it should have more security features. So, one of my directors that time was Mr. Ramaswamy, who had set up the banknote presses in India.
Okay.
So he set up currency presses, and he says, let's look at intaglio printing for share certificates. And because, intaglio printing is what is there on our currency notes. And so we said, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's go there. So we went to American banknotes. Now, American banknotes realized that their business was shrinking. They were very keen to move their machinery to India. So they said, let's do a joint venture. It looked well. They supply the machinery. We put up this thing. My dad was not very keen because he knew that the labor trouble was still looming on our heads. But he says, let's look at it. Let's see it as an opportunity. Maybe there is some way we can get around with it. And so we were almost like, it seemed like a good business plan. And I said, let me just talk to the market, before we, that's one side. Let me ask people. I went to Bombay Stock Exchange to talk to someone. And he says, boss, ye karna mat. I said, why? He's saying, you know what? I've heard, and I may be wrong, but उन लोग बात कर रहे हैं
Demat.
कि ये DMAT. I said, are you mad? No one's got DMAT. What is DMAT? In 97, I said, how can this go? He's saying, nahi. He's saying, I don't know whether it will succeed. But if it's DMAT, your business is gone.
Zero.
Zero. And so I said, well, so we were, Vakils has always been conservative. And we came back and says, you know what? Let's wait.
But
And
that was a wise decision.
Wise
In
decision.
retrospect.
And that's when I realized
You were this close to getting into it.
And that was my starting point where I realized that printing is a disruptive industry. At some point, mutual funds will also go electronic. Transactional statements would go. That's when the internet revolution started kicking in. And while I was not a visionary in that period of time, we had tied up with the world's largest financial printing firm. They wanted someone to represent them in India for this GDR, ADR offerings,
Depository receipts.
Yeah, depository receipts. And we were representing them in India. And, there was some fees which we were getting and helping them with, local printing and all of that. And it was a New York listed company. And I worked very closely with them. And I saw it was called Bound and Company. And it subsequently got bought over by Donnelly in 2000.
R.R. Donnelly.
Yeah.
The largest in the world.
But I saw Bound's business getting transformed over the years. That their print business became, electronic. These prospectuses became digital. Virtual data rooms.
That's where you got the exposure.
Exposure that if this is going to happen in the US and in the West, it's going to happen in India
soon.
And those were the beeps,
the antenna.
The antennas which propped up. And that's when I realized that even our annual report business is going to go, at some point will go electronic. And it's not driven by the market will want it, because it's a cost to them. It's not something which they
You were mentioning to me earlier that you had mentioned in one of the MMS conferences.
Yeah, so I went and it was an MMS or BMP. I can't remember, but it was a panel discussion where I said everyone should be careful because the annual report business is going to, is under pressure, and it's going to go electronic. And that was in 2008. And it didn't happen till very recently. It was a very, very lucrative business, even right from 2008 to up to the COVID period.
Okay.
But we could see that it dipped from 2011. Companies were given the option to send it electronically to shareholders.
Okay.
And, so you can see mutual fund statements, you can see transactional.
True. There's so much of things that are more digital.
And you can't fight the change.
Yeah,
you can only
embrace it.
And that's when we realized, so coming back to that question of...
How did I?
In 2005, 2006, we had done all the restructuring that we could in terms of labor, in terms of shareholders. We bought in some equipment. The problems which were there persisting for 20 years, we had solved it. And we were at a crossroads. Now what?
Okay.
Where do we take the new Vakils forward?
Okay.
And we had two options. Either we say, let's go now to Bhiwandi, Panvel, wherever, and set up a plant there because it's a low cost, location as compared to being in central Mumbai and, Prabhadevi and Ballad Estate.
Sure.
And let's move it all out. And that was, let's get into packaging, which everyone was
doing.
Yeah. And digital printing was probably the answer to, being, and in my mind, I said, this is something which is highly competitive and, we should probably think beyond this.
Sure.
And that's when in the 90s, 2000, India was at the cups of the outsourcing boom.
Yes.
the BPOs and the KPOs
they are all
coming,
flourishing. All over.
flourishing. Publishing outsourcing was a big business then. You had Integra, you had Datamatics. Macmillan's was very doing a lot of work in that, serving the Elsevier's and the Lippincotts and the all these large scientific and medical publishers. A lot of it was done in Bangalore and Madras and Madurai and all that. And we says, let's try and get a pie of that part of it. We knew typesetting. We were typesetters for
the longest period.
Longest period. So he says, this is something which we can do. It's typesetting with a lot of tech in it. Processes and all of it, but it's not something which we can't do.
So that's your entry into the
And
IT
that's how we started doing we started with an American company, and we would do typesetting for them. The big challenge then was, how do you transmit files? Because internet was quite very low. I remember we used to sit hours to make sure that the
file is going through.
Before I remember my guys used to start praying to the modem. And then, they would do this to the modem, and then, some of them would break a nariyal, and, chalo abhi, let's,
file waste,
let's see if a small little file, which right now we can send through our WhatsApp. Was, and so, that's how we started. But what happened was, we realized that this was already a mature industry in some sense. There were already big guns who were doing it. And for us to break into that market was becoming increasingly difficult. And I felt that I don't want to there was opportunities to be a subcontractor to these
the big guys,
because they could not handle all the business they were getting. So, Datamatics and all of them, there was opportunities to do work for them. But then we would always, there was no real value addition. So we said, let's not get into that. Let's try and break into companies. We worked with a company called, it was a small little publishing company in New Jersey. And we got their first business. And we were very happy. We got an international client and we started doing work. And in 1.5 years, they got acquired by Springer, which is a large German medical publisher. And I didn't even realize that this business can change that,
Quick.
We thought we can only lose business if our quality is not good. I'm a printer finally. So if we don't deliver on time, our quality is not good, or the price.
True.
But the
acquisitions can
then,
take away the business we never thought of.
We never thought of it. And I realized that this is not a business which I can really make my mark in it. And that's when we started looking at other businesses. And we hit upon, this whole pharma regulatory compliance and artwork. We had a company which, a large multinational company which wanted to outsource this in India. And, we had to bid for it. The first time we didn't get it, but they burnt their fingers with a company in Delhi. The second time they came back and they told a consulting company which they were using to kind of evaluate that, tell me which company out of all the shortlisted companies is the most ethical and, because we can teach them how to do it, but we can't teach them values, because the other company in Delhi, they actually were not honest to them, and they said things which they didn't have and all of it. So, it was their value system which was questionable. And that's when they says, well, Vakils is an old-fashioned company, but at least they are ethical. And, we just,
that worked for you.
That worked.
The whole legacy.
The whole legacy worked. And that's why I keep saying, having good ethics makes a lot of business sense.
True.
And we got that. We learned the ropes. And,
so you're handling this client globally or only for India?
No, globally.
Wow.
Yeah, so we manage it.
Global client for global.
Yeah, we manage almost
locations from India.
Yeah, we manage 70% of all their global requirements.
Wonderful.
And so that was where we started getting into more regulatory compliance for labeling, adapting those into the packaging. We don't do any printing. It's more, knowledge-based activity rather than
IT-enabled services.
Yeah, it's IT-enabled services.
And who are your competitors in this now?
Tech Mahindra is the big one there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, TCS does a lot of it. Wipro does a lot of it.
So you're competing with the big daddies.
And now recently we were bidding for a large international bid, and we lost it to Genpact. Accenture does some of it. So that's, it's been, and these are, and then obviously there are a lot of, all our clients are overseas. So these are only large India-centric companies. They may be not India-owned, but India-centric.
Yeah.
There are obviously a lot of companies in the US and Ireland and, Philippines and all that, which also do this.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Well, interesting towards letterpress that you started with, 1949, we'll take 1949, not 1926. Then your own brand of visiting cards, then labor issues, and a lot of them, and then you moved into outsourcing, and then into regulatory.
Yeah.
So any other pivots that you've done?
So now in 2013, we realized that, IT-enabled services itself is evolving.
Okay.
And we realized that we needed to get into mainstream IT services. So we started developing apps, the apps which you and I see on the phones. We started developing apps for the Indian market. We realized that a very, very difficult business with the whole software startup ecosystem, and they run out of funds and all of that. And through that, coincidentally, we started doing book apps, because we have a publishing company and we understand books and we understand publishing. And also the market was not evolved then. And coincidentally, we hit upon the pharma industry. And we realized that, a lot of the visual aids were getting into what they call is e-detailers, or, content on the tablet.
Okay.
Integrated into a CRM, which is a CRM system, or, there's analytics, and then, there's automation, and there is all these rep triggered emails. And
Tell our viewers, how does this help, like a e-detailer, why will it help a pharmaceutical company?
So an e-detailer, one is obviously you don't need to physically meet a doctor.
Okay.
It can be a remote e-detailer.
Yeah.
So they can actually send this through a platform. So the doctors, there's no physical contact. A lot of people don't like that now. They don't.
They don't have time.
They don't have time. And in the West, no, you don't really see, people going and sitting in
MRs traveling like this.
MR travels and all that. So it's not something which is easily encouraged or easily managed. In their ecosystem doesn't allow it to. So e-detailer is a great way to actually do remote engagements. That's one. Now all our, we all know how analytics and how all of this has taken over. It's everything is.
So by analytics, they would get to know that the doctor is watching which page, how much time
he's spending, where he's clicking, where he's taking it from that page to another page, because they are all interlinks, hyperlinks. So that's where they whole
visual aids is also on the way to.
And then how that is then integrated into, can take him into a website, and then from that it could trigger out another email. So it's all interconnected. And we develop these platforms, we integrate these other platforms, we develop the front end visual aids, we do a lot of data migration and a lot of data nurturing, so this whole thing it's a whole software.
So you've kind of completely taken a 180-degree turn going into IT.
Yeah, and IT has its own challenges.
I'm sure it has a lot of challenges. But one question I'm sure many of the viewers would want me to ask now is, you're a traditional commercial printer. So how did you kind of get yourself equipped to be running an IT business?
Well, I don't even have a printing background. I don't have an IT background. I should have been in Dalal Street or Wall Street. So, that was what my education and my initial interest lied. So, to that extent, I'm handicapped because I
No,
never.
but you're running such a large setup.
Yeah,
So,
so, if I knew where my journey was taken, my initial education would have been more geared to that. It's been, we've just kind of, looked at opportunities and then seen how we can capture those opportunities and invest in people. That's the whole thing, is invest in a culture, invest in people, invest in processes, invest in relationships, and that's the only thing that has got us through. But the knowledge of printing is really helped in my IT business.
sure. That gives you the edge, which the others will never have.
And where we've got the edge is, how do you satisfy a customer? Printing is a very, very service-oriented business. Whatever the customer says or what they need, you have to try and fulfill those needs. And we could not let the customer down, because, there were 3 other printers knocking on the door if we did. The minute you fail, there were 3 people who would stand right and walk in. And we realized that, that is very important in whatever business you run, doing it right the first time, being attentive to details, being, looking at, just being service oriented, keeping costs low, and all of those things have really helped us in our IT business.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So, if any of the listener or the viewer, wants to think of a pivot like this, what would be a few things that you would advise them to do, which can help them transition successfully? Any piece of advice?
So the piece of advice is that, one is embrace change. Don't fight the change.
How true?
Change is always there. It's inevitable. And, don't be scared to kind of take it on, Think differently, think out of a box, look at other industries, seeing where the needs are, what is the customer's needs, what is he or she looking at,
True.
how is their business evolving, and can you play a part in that process?
The larger scheme of things.
Yeah, larger scheme of things. And if you have to you have to set up something different, don't be afraid to do that, and obviously you have to invest in good people. I always say that employ people smarter than you. And I think, you will fail. You'll fail 5 times, but the 6th time you will succeed, So it's all
well said. Good points. Good pointers for people to ponder over and think and probably look at their business.
Yeah.
On this note, you mentioned to me before we started this podcast, shooting this podcast, that you have a board. I would want you to share more about that.
So I've always felt that a CEO needs to have a boss. We need to run our businesses professionally in a way which is futuristic and, the first thing is, I've got people who actually, have come from outside the industry to play an operating role. So I have a very strong HR person, a very strong operating person. I went beyond an accountant to get a more finance person. And set processes, have 3-year business plans, have KPIs, all of that. After that, that needs to be then, we need to be accountable. They need to be accountable. I need to be accountable. And the only way we can do this is, it's family owned, but we have external people who have nothing to do with the industry, print industry, who are on my board. We have meetings. We have, I can't move things.
So you're running it like a professional board, like the listed companies would be doing.
I have to present to them. They question me, and we.
But is the sanctity maintained in terms of it is chalta hai? Is it like, how do you maintain that kind of?
It's hard because sometimes because you're not we are not bound by certain corporate rules, so we have to have our own discipline. I do slip up sometimes because whatever reason but I try to maintain.
But overall, I've been
trying
able to get value out of this.
Get value, and I've also included my own people to be part of that board meeting, my team.
Okay, that makes it all the more serious.
So they are accountable to the board as much as I am, and they are questioned by the board members independent of me. He says, if Bimal has not done it, why have you not done it? And you give me that, send me that information. If just send it to me directly. So they are also accountable. Yeah.
One question that that's coming in my mind is, you are like running this IT enabled services business where the talent pool is very different.
Yes.
And you have this printing business running where the talent pool is very different. So how do you manage the balance between the two?
So I treat each business differently.
Okay.
Some of the things which we ran, which we were doing in the printing business, I couldn't follow that in the IT business. I would have never attracted talent, nor could I keep the talent. Performance bonuses, the way we did evaluations, all of it, 360-degree evaluations. This was something which the printing industry was not mature enough to handle those things.
True.
So I just ran them both very differently. Some of the HR practices which we have, the employee KPIs, the KRAs, all of that, we don't follow that completely in the printing business because it's the mindsets are very different.
Yeah.
So I run both different. There are two different legal entities,
and it can be run. That's the message.
So it can be run. There were a lot of each one would want to take the good of the other, and like simple things like in the printing business you get a statutory bonus which is fixed, which is industry specific and legally bound, that 8.33 of the bonus, whatever, that will not work in the IT business.
Correct.
So you have bonuses which you could be all up to 100% bonus.
True.
Or you could get no bonuses.
Yeah. All performance driven.
All performance driven. So if the guy gets 100%, the print guy says, "Arey, mujhe kyun nahi mil raha hai?" But on the other side, I said, listen, there's a guy who's probably got no bonus because his performance has been not good.
Everything is performance driven.
Everything is performance.
So I'm sure it would have helped your printing business as well to mature and grow.
It has. So they have, 5-day week. In the IT business, you have 5-day weeks. We could never in the printing business. 5-day week was unheard of.
Have a 5-day week in the printing business?
Now we have, so that is something which we have.
Yeah, other guys might be jealous of you.
Yeah. And then there is the whole employee engagements. You need to have various kinds of employee engagements and,
Lovely.
parties and pizza parties and celebrations and this and that. It's because the whole industry, they see their peers in other industries doing it.
Sure.
And, so then obviously it rubs off. It was challenging because to keep costs in this thing, we had it in one location. If it was 2 different locations, then it would have been very easy.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But they were seeing it in in one location where, it was, it was different.
It's a wonderful conversation. You gave me so much of inputs, and I'm just wondering, have I left some important points? So my one question to you is there something like, which is very core to Vakils and core to Bimal? Is there something that I missed to ask you?
I think our value systems and is the fundamental, we live by our value systems. That has kept us going for at least the 75 years or little less than 75 years my family has been involved.
Running
I can't obviously speak for the previous side of it. And it's the value system which kept us going. When we were down on our knees in 1990s, because we were true to our customers, they gave us a chance. They gave us the benefit of the doubt. They says, you've been good to us. We'll give you a chance. If you fail, obviously, then we'll go to your competitors. And in that whole process, we never ever compromised on anything which would shortcut the process, whether it was in using the right grammage of paper or quantities, all of it. And that's the same value system which we have tried to inculcate in all our businesses. And I'll just recently, my dad, who's obviously was considered one of the stalwarts in the industry.
Sure.
And, when he was not too well, and we had got a consulting firm to rebrand our business, to see how the rebranding and to create the value system. She went to all our customers, talked to them, there were like 45-minute conversations, 1-hour conversations, transcribed all of it. And through those conversations, created a value system credo,
Yeah.
And I went to
I
my
think it's prominently placed
It's
at the
placed there.
entrance. Yeah.
But the more interesting thing is when I showed it to my father, and he says, this is nothing new. This is the same value systems we've been following all throughout. He said, I'll take it even one step further. This was the same value systems my great-grandfather,
Passed on to him
when he was running shops in South Africa. So whether you're running a large IT firm or a small little shop, being ethical, being attentive, doing it right the first time is applicable to any business. And that's what we have, that's been our backbone. And I think we are very proud of our heritage and, we've, where we are, and we never want to lose sight of that, and that's where we...
Lovely to hear the Vakil story. From the Vakil's, the current head of the business. It's nice to know. I'm sure the viewers would love to listen to this as well. And thanks for detailing in terms of your journey from the various pivots that you've had. I think it's been wonderful. I'm not taking this conversation very long because in the interest of time and people lose interest. So I have the last two questions which are more answers for us in terms of how do we move ahead. So we got your reference, though I've known you, but from Fahim. And so like that, do you have someone who's there in your mind?
I think there are lots of people who've obviously done great work and, and obviously been, have done phenomenally well and, who've taken their business to different levels,
Any specific person in mind that
so obviously people like Ramesh Bhai Kejriwal and all who my dad have they were all my dad's contemporaries. But there's one person, I don't know whether you've hit upon him, is Milap Shah.
Milap, we've done Milap.
Okay, so Milap is a fascinating story of how he he has transformed. Then there are obviously the other ones which, they were the doyens of the pre-press industry. And they still are surviving, which is Ashok Nerkar, the Nerkar, the unique blocks. There's Comart, which has been Fred Poonawalla. Vakils and Comart were stuck to the hips. We've been,
Siamese twins.
Yeah, we were Siamese twins. And, so Comart has also evolved from a traditional block maker to where they are.
Fred's an amazing guy.
Yeah, so, Fred's an
always
amazing
bright
guy.
and...
There's, ReproScan, who were also Pankaj Mehta. So all these people who have seen their businesses, so I'm equating that their businesses also went through transformation. They were doing scanning and pre-press work, and, as Photoshop came in, their businesses, which was driven through these mysterious systems, which they called it, all went, but they've all still remained in business and thriving.
They stayed relevant.
They stayed relevant. So, while, I think those are people whom you could definitely
Surely
talk to.
good names and definitely
Yeah,
connect
they're all
with.
legacy names.
Yeah, absolutely,
you
absolutely.
Ashok Nerkar was a
I'm
towering
not-
figure.
I'm not connected
Yeah,
with
I know. He's Ashok Bhai's Gautam. Comart is an institution.
Yeah.
I would think an institution which is even higher than Vakils, and you should definitely.
Fred definitely, he's there.
They've been a very old.
Yes,
since
totally.
yeah,
Fred is in mind.
yeah,
I will connect with you.
yeah.
Thanks. And the last question is, we've started this podcast, which is very new to the industry, and
yeah,
people are like
yeah,
not really on. So, watching these kind of content on YouTube. So, what do you think, and how would you advise us to be?
I think it's a great medium. I think it's a great medium to connect with the younger generation. People who've come into the industry, a lot of them have come into family businesses, who want to take their business to a different level.
Right.
And, you sometimes learn from each other. You learn from our mistakes.
Yeah.
I've made a lot of mistakes, and I could have another podcast telling you about all the mistakes I have made. And there are, I've made more mistakes than, and I think it's important that they see that we have, you fall down once, you can get up. And I think this is, these are lessons for the youngsters, and I think this is a great way to connect with the younger generation, to
Learn from each other.
Learn from each other. I'm now in the older side of the spectrum, but the younger generation, and these podcasts is something which they relate to.
Yeah.
If you give them a 3-page article, they're not going to read it,
yeah.
in a magazine.
Yeah,
So I
that's
think,
the whole idea.
Yeah, they're going to listen to these YouTube things sitting in the car, driving,
Right.
to work.
And you can listen it like in 5-10 minutes.
Yeah,
5-10 minutes.
they're going for a run and they listen to it, though I'm not sure they want to listen to us rather than.
No, it's about, like you said, the mistakes that you have done, like you've been very open about it.
Yeah.
Ki mere se ye hua, probably I was ill-equipped at that point in time. So you can be better prepared. And that's how we all learn.
Yeah, so in 2010, I went to my father and said, I want to close down this IT services. It's not working. And he's saying, no, you don't have a choice. What are you going to do? And so, we've learned from our mistakes. So it's not all hunky-dory.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lesson for everyone that, as your business changes, the other path is not, it may not be a path of bed of roses. There are going to be, obstacles, but you just have to go through those obstacles. Yeah.
Wonderful words and a wonderful conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for thinking that,
Thanks, Bimal. It was
worthy
really
of your podcast.
It is totally our pleasure to have you and hear about your wonderful story, the legacy of Vakils.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.